Loesch is the host of Dana on the Blaze TV and author of Hands Off My Gun. And Nomicki Konst is the founder and executive director of the Accountability Project. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
You know, this is an issue that makes people feel very strongly about it on both sides. And so I don't doubt his sincerity. And I don't doubt, you know, Hillary Clinton's sincerity in trying to raise the issue. They seem to genuinely believe that gun control will diminish the number of mass shootings we're seeing in the country. And yet I ask you, Dana, as somebody who studies guns and supports gun rights, whether the facts bear that out.
No, Megan, they simply don't. And I don't think that they mean to do a disservice to the memory of those who lost their lives in Europe and other countries where there has been gun violence and there have been mass shootings. Just in fact, there was the one in Norway, which regulates guns quite heavily, I might add, in 2011, where you had a murderous thug who went and murdered 69 people, and it played out on live television. There's also the case of the shooting rampage that took place in Britain, again, where handguns are basically illegal. And 12 people were murdered there. This happens quite a bit. This is not unique to American society, Megan. This is a moral deficiency that all of humanity shares.
Nomi, what about it? Because you look at the stats and they're quite dreadful. I mean, even in Europe, which has very tight gun control laws, the number of mass shootings that have occurred over there in high schools, in middle schools, even in kindergarten, like we saw at Sandy Hook, they're terrible. So how do you get to the point of this is due to gun control laws in America?
I mean, the reality is that Americans are 20 times more likely to be murdered by gun violence than in any other developed country. We have more guns in America unregulated than Afghanistan, Pakistan, Russia, India. That's outrageous. The fact that we're a developed country and our standards are below countries that don't have those regulations.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, because the question is whether we have any reason to believe though tighter regulations would have prevented these crimes. I mean, in this instance, we don't know yet, but it appears that the father had a gun, which I haven't heard that it was an illegal gun, that he gave to his son. Or perhaps he just bought him one that was legal. But my point is we don't have the evidence that this was an unlawful gun yet, and we didn't have that evidence in the case of Sandy Hook either.
Well, you know, there was an interesting study recently done. In Australia in 1996, there was a mass shooting epidemic. There were 11 mass shootings that happened in a decade, which was the highest ever. Under a conservative prime minister, they passed sweeping gun reform laws, destroyed 650,000 semi-automatic and automatic weapons, created tight restrictions in Australia, and within 10 years, the murders created by gun violence dropped by 59%. They went from 11 murders in a decade, mass murders in a decade, to 0. So there are, you know, there's evidence here to show that this type of reform does have a serious impact. Now, can you control the black market?
And yet, Dana, that's not the experience we had in our country when Bill Clinton, you know, passed his gun law.
Right. No, and there's something I want to point out, Megan. I mean, I could sit here, I did write the book on it, and I could sit here and spat off stats all day long. For instance, Honduras has 21 times the gun murders that we do and 14 times fewer guns. But this gun, we do know, actually, that this individual, this murderous thug in Charleston, was legally barred from carrying, Megan. We could talk about statistics, but it's irrelevant here. In South Carolina, all you have to do is be charged with a felony to be declared illegitimate to carry, which he was in February of 2015. You're charged with the felony. He was for drug possession. It was methamphetamine and cocaine. His father purchased a firearm for him for his 21st birthday, April 4th, 2015. That could have been a straw man purchase, which is also a felony. He reportedly told someone that he stole the gun that he used in these murders. That's also a felony. Felony, felony, felony. We have regulations on firearm ownership, which is why when you compare us to countries, advanced countries, Megan, that have fewer guns and more restrictions, the murder rate is higher. The violent crime rate is higher. The studies speak for themselves.
What about it, no? Because a lot of people say, you know, somebody like this is determined to kill. And gun defenders will say what they needed in that church was somebody who was also carrying, who could have taken him down. We were supposed to air a special tonight, which now we've postponed until next week, given the news out of Charleston, about a woman who is at a food processing plant in Oklahoma. Her colleague was beheaded by a madman who ran in. She was in the process of getting beheaded. Her life was saved because there was a man in that company with a gun who shot the person trying to decapitate her.
So, you know, anecdotes are fascinating, but they're not data. And we do have very serious data that backs up that gun reform does prevent murders, massive murders. 49 out of the 60 massive murders we've had in our country have been due to illegal and legal purchasing of guns. So this is a serious
But if it's
problem.
illegal, I mean, that sort of underscores Dana's point. If it's illegal, then how is another law going to prevent it?
Let me clarify it, meaning passing on, such as this situation where it was gifted or stolen, and
it's illegal. It's
but
illegal
it's a registered gun.
It's a straw man purchase. No,
but
it's illegal. You cannot. No.
Sure, I'm not saying that's not illegal.
You cannot purchase a firearm and gift it to someone who is ineligible to own a firearm.
Sure, but that's a very rare situation, and you're taking.
No, it's not. It's a felony. It's a felony.
No, it's a felony. Absolutely, but it doesn't happen every day.
I don't say his name, but even in the Sandy Hook situation, you know, his mother had the guns legally, and he took them. I mean, how are stricter gun laws going to prevent that? The question is whether the focus is on the wrong thing, because remember the mental health thing? Remember how we were going to crack down on that after Newtown? What happened?
You know, it's not a one or the other issue. We have to deal with both of these issues. The reality is...
So where is the dealing with the mental health?
That's in Congress. I think that we should pass massive mental health reform.
Should it be more easy to commit people?
I don't know necessarily. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what commit necessarily means.
You don't have to be a doctor to have an opinion on that.
I think that people should have access to free mental health. I think that there should be, you know, clinics widely available. We have a serious mental health issue in America, but that's not causing these situations. In fact,
I gotta go. I'll give you the last word, Dana. Go ahead.
We have a huge problem. We don't follow through. If you remember the Discovery Channel thug, that was a court order, Megan, that he should have been receiving mental help, and the state board did not follow up with that. If you adjudicate someone mentally unfit, you have to follow the laws in place.
Ladies, thank you both. Thoughtful debate. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Megan.
Well, with the FBI now investigating